Surprisingly, this doesn't taste like Jean-Claude Van Damme's face. Hey guys, so that was just going to be an interesting review. At the beginning of the year, I started my reviews with a film called Shallow Grey, which came out almost 2 years prior, and it was a straight-to-DVD movie. And now halfway through the year, I'm doing another straight-to-DVD movie that actually was pretty good. Now, I haven't seen all the Universal Soldier movies. I've seen bits and parts of the first one, and then I knew that apparently all the ones that came after were really crappy. And then they did sort of a reboot a couple of years ago with Regeneration, which had Andre the Pitbull Arlovsky. And I watched it before I watched Day of Reckoning, and it was okay. The action was decent, but the story just seemed very bland. Mind you, I was watching it on terrible quality, and I didn't have Russian subtitles for some reason. I didn't know what the Russians were saying, so that was a bit of an issue. Coming into Day of Reckoning, I thought, well, maybe this might be just another straight-up action movie, but then my friend, who was the person who had me see this film at a theater with him, he said that it's not. It's actually a lot like Apocalypse Now. At least that's what one reference was, and it actually was. So the idea of having super soldiers in a rural suburban environment was the first thing that I actually found very interesting. Because usually with these movies, we're set in some war zone or some post-apocalyptic world. This was in Louisiana. So to see these super soldiers fighting in a sports store, in a motel, it was really weird, but it was kind of cool. This film obviously had a very small budget, and it does the best it bloody well can with its limited budget. Film really doesn't suffer from it. The only thing that it suffers from is scale. The whole idea that there's this Universal Soldier group that are freeing other Universal Soldiers of the command from the government, they're all following this deity who is Devereaux, who is Jean-Claude Van Damme, who actually doesn't really have a role in this movie. He's very off to the side, which is interesting considering this is the series that he started. So the fact there's this rogue faction of Universal Soldiers rebelling against the government is actually interesting because you don't really know in the end who is the good guy and who's the bad. But they don't really do anything. They just get other Universal Soldiers and give them this ridiculous seizure-inducing black and white scenario, which, wow, that's interesting. The fact that they put that in the movie, that's dangerous because I watched it and I actually felt ill. I watched the whole thing, both of them, but I actually felt ill on the second one. Something is in progress, but again, scale, obviously the budget goes as far as it can, and so must the story. But this actually works in the narrative's favor because since they haven't done anything yet, you kind of want to side with the Universal Soldier group. But obviously the main character who believes his family was killed by Luke Devereaux at the beginning of the film, which actually was a really well done first-person camera thing. At first I wondered what was the point of that, but then it actually was really well done. And that's another thing too, is the cinematography in this film for a straight-to-DVD movie, it's actually really decent. There's some really good shots in this film. I applaud the director and the DOP for doing what they can and actually putting some artistic flavor into this film. So speaking of the main character, Scott Adkins, he's actually pretty good. He's decent. The only thing is, though, he would speak so seldom and speak so monotone. Not like really monotone. He just would really put a lot of emotion to his voice because that's just not his character. His character is obviously very emotionally traumatized, but he keeps a lot of it inside. He doesn't really know what's going on. His British accent comes into play a few times. Like, at first I didn't think he was British, and then all of a sudden he said something. I was like, oh, he's British. And then he would go and say a few more lines in this very sort of neutral accent tone. And then his British would come back, and it was like, oh, okay. That's all right. But he performs in the action. That's something, again, that I actually thought was pretty decent in this movie, was the action. Again, despite the budget, the fight scenes, especially the one in the sports store, which was really awesome, which a lot of people know about. I actually really like one of the first main ones where he's fighting Pitbull Arlovsky, who has an axe, and they're fighting in this motel room. It's really cool, like, action play, a lot of threat. Hell, like, something happens in that scene that I didn't expect to happen. And then there's also that really cool action scene at the end, which feigns itself as a single cut. It isn't, but, you know, they do the best they can to try and make it seem as though. But the problem is, they use a lot of, like, action pose slow-mo, and that's Oh, right, a few times, but there was a lot of points where I just wish that, okay, you could speed this up. Let's do this normal time. Let's see what it looks like in real time. And there's also a car chase scene that's really boring. That's just being honest, because, again, budgetary concerns. It's just these two cars doing this the whole time on a highway. And you see them going up and down the same bridge over and over again, because the bridge is not that very big, but literally just do this until there's the sports store scene. And the film actually is pretty decent with its artistic ideas. It's not trying to be all woo and deep and everything like that. It actually just goes straight to it. Scott Adkins is having this inner battle with his mind of who controls it. And at one point he's looking at himself in the mirror, and then all of a sudden it's Jean-Claude Van Damme, and he's grabbing him through the mirror. And it's like, look, he's trying to take control of you. Literally. I actually like that because it was freaky, but it definitely was interesting. The only thing that really bugs me about these movies is how these guys are able to come back from the dead, especially Dolph Lundgren, who has died in every single one, and they just, they don't even say anything. They're just like, oh yeah, he's alive. For me, that just bugs me a little bit because I want to know, how were you alive? Your head blew up in the last one. Or Andre, who was like, you got terminated completely in the last one. So I give the director props for definitely doing something different, especially with a series like this, completely going in a totally different direction, and that's something that a sequel should do, is go in a completely different direction. Sure, it's not this mega blockbuster, but it doesn't need to be. Sure, some of the fight scenes aren't as great as they could be, but they're done well with what they have. And sure, Jean-Claude Van Damme just seems like this emotionless husk, but he's not in it enough to really damper the film. And Dolph Lundgren's hilarious in it for all of 5 minutes, but he's pretty funny. So in the end, I think I'm going to be really good here, and I'm going to give Day of Reckoning a 5 out of 7. So anyway, that's all from me, guys. Random review out of nowhere. But that's it, and I'll see you guys next time.